a demo. I mean, a demo is worth 1,000 words, and we really look forward to showing you guys the new functionality. As promised, I'm going to take you through the entire workflow that is going to span both what's taking place on the clinic and also on the lab. So I'll sort of switch personalities from clinic to lab as we go through the workflow. As you all know, it all starts in the clinic. So that's also where we'll start, where either the doctor will scan, hopefully with a TRIAS bought from you guys, or will make a conventional impression. And the doctor now knows, okay, this is going to be a clear aligner treatment. And now they want to communicate the treatment vision to the lab. And how that has happened previously would be either them calling the lab or sending an email with instructions on, oh, please don't move the teeth in the lower mouth, and I don't want any attachment on this and that tooth. We have made a portal that enables efficient communication between the clinic and lab, and that is what I'm going to show you guys now. So I'm logging in on the Freeshape Communicate portal. Most of you probably recognize it. This is the exact same place where you can log in and see all the Freeshape Communicate cases. I'll log in as a clinic here. Treatment review is one of those features we talked about that would actually trigger that you have to pay for the model exports. So if either party are using treatment review for the particular case, then this one will require that you pay for the export. Another detail is also that it is the lab that gets treatment review as part of their subscription. So it's actually the lab that chooses to say, I want to work in treatment review together with my doctors, and they can then make it available to all of their doctors. That also includes doctors that are not Freeshape doctors. So as a lab, I can also choose to use treatment review to work together with doctors that use conventional impression or competing non-Freeshape scanners. We want to make sure that the lab guys out there get the maximum possibility to compete, bring down the time it takes for them to make the cases and become profitable. Remember that they buy the CAD points when they run out of the exports, so where you guys will also be included. So it's in all our interest that they make a lot of cases together in the software. You'll notice here we have a new tab here called treatment review. That's because the lab that's communicating together with this doctor has chosen to make treatment review available for the doctor. So let's press this one here. And here I will see part of my cases. And what are these cases that are listed here? Apparently, I'm a TRIAS doctor, and here I will find all the cases that I have scanned with my TRIAS, where I have chosen clear aligners as the indication on the TRIAS. If I was not a TRIAS doctor, I would still be able to communicate the case details by pressing this, create a new case, and then it will open the form we are going to see in a second with all the patient data. But I want to show it to you on a TRIAS case, but just be aware that you can, in fact, do this both for TRIAS and non-TRIAS cases of all the kinds. So if I click on this one here now, maybe this computer is standing in another room than my TRIAS. It will still load the 3D scans, as you can see, very fast and efficiently. It's very responsive, where I can sort of remind myself, okay, what was this patient? What was wrong? What do I actually need to have solved here when we want the lab to look at this? I already filled this out already, but this is a crowding case, as you can see. So I filled out crowding here. I want both the upper and the lower arts chosen, but I can click this. I want to address the crowding. If you notice here, there's a midline discrepancy. Maybe that will make the treatment too cumbersome. So maybe I want to maintain the midline in the lower mouth because it will be way too an expensive treatment. So again, very easy for the doctor to communicate what they want and what they do not want. Maybe if there were a bit deep bite, I don't think it's the case for this case, but I could click this here. And then the lab will know that the clinic want that corrected as well. Let's see here. It could be that I will allow attachments, but I don't want attachments on the two incisors. I can then click them and say no attachments and save it. And all of this information will be carried over to the lab so they can use that when they design the treatment. The next step here, that's just a summary of what I want, including the usual pictures. And when I then press submit, And then the lab will be notified or email saying that please check your inbox in your Clearliner Studio. There's a case waiting for you where the doctor will have these things made. So now we switch from the clinic role over to the lab role, where we are actually going to be designing this Clearliner case. And here we see the first cool new thing. Remember that the old versions of the software, there was many icons, appliance designer, the control panel, the scan applications, auto analyzer. In the new, there's one to rule them all. So there's one icon here that would give you all-in-one appliance designer, auto analyzer, Clearliner Studio, indirect bonding, if you bought those products, of course, and also the scanning software. So one icon to start it all, including the control panel. Once you have run that, then you'll get to the next positive surprise, and that is that in the old days, we had 3 different patient browsers looking into different parts of the software. We have unified that in one patient browser, and it's designed in this new sleek Dental Desktop Trias looking UI UX. In fact, it is the same that we have copied in here. This is not Dental Desktop, but the users that are used to using a Trias, Splint Studio, Implant Studio, all the new FreeShape products, they will feel right at home in here right here already. It's very efficient with the rotatable 3D models and everything. It's fast to search. So as soon as I press, the number of patient list collapse instantly, even if you have many patients. You can do a full search, advanced search. And I can also order new stuff in here. We don't have the order form. Instead, we have collected all the typical things you want to do in auto out here. So you can start new appliances. You can do your analysis, bracket placement, Clearliner Studio. You can put a base on the model, or you can import the scans or CBCT or scan models, so you can run your lab scanners from within here, all in one location. Of course, depending on if you have actually bought all the products. If you only have bought the Clearliner Studio, then you will only find Auto Analyzer, the Clearliners, and the preparation and the import step. Another thing that's worth noting is that you might notice this little padlock here. That's because I have already this case open here. Even if you have a client server set up with a lot of clients, if one of those clients open a case, then instantaneously all the other clients will see this padlock, and they can even be told which of the other workstations now is working on this particular case. So much more effective than the old system regarding on who's working on what. So people don't accidentally try to work on cases where other people are already doing good work on them. Another new functionality that we have added, that is case states. So this sort of represents the journey that the given case will take through the system as different technicians would work on it. We know that many labs would have a bit more expensive technicians who are capable and skilled at doing the setup and the staging to actually do the medically difficult part of building aligners. And then maybe you have some other technicians that will be running the scanners or putting a base on the model or preparing them for printing and stuff like that. And we have made some nice case states where it's easy for all the operators to track which state a given case is in. The first step here, that's empty. And what do we need an empty case for? And remember, on treatment review, if I didn't have a Trias, then I would start a case, but I'm a doctor. I'm standing now with a conventional impression in my hand. I would still fill out the treatment review like we talked about before, but then I will send it to the lab without any scan. And then the lab would, in their FreeShape Communicate inbox, it's up here, they would receive an empty scan, knowing that, oh, this is a treatment review case with a conventional impression because there's no scan in it. And then you can find those cases, and then you can scan directly via the lab scanner into these empty cases. You can also sort them by date, so you always are working on the oldest one, probably the one you need to pay attention to, so not get angry clients, but easy for everybody to keep track on. Once you have scanned into the case, it will be marked as scanned. When you put a base on, it will be marked as prepared. As soon as you have moved one or more teeth, it will be marked as designed. And if you have exported it, it will be marked as design files. And then this down here is a new one. These are also exported, but this is with the new hollowing and wax features. So there are sort of 2 steps of export, depending if you want to use the new payment feature. Wax up and hollowing is also payment features, as we will get to later. But as you can see, if we have a big client server set up with a lot of technicians, all of them will very, very easily be able to find cases in different states and start working on those that fit their competencies and what they've been asked by the lab manager to focus on. So again, something that we expect will save them a lot of time. In fact, while I've been doing this demo, something has been demoing in the background that you guys can see, and that is probably the most coveted new functionality according to our beta testers, and that is the auto segmentation. As soon as a case is either scanned into the system, imported into the system, or accepted in the inbox, then the system will start auto-segmenting it in the background automatically. So it's a thing of the past where you have to segment the cases yourself, and you don't even have to wait the 1 or 2 minutes for it to auto-segment it automatically for you. It's done in the background. Remember now, we are on the lab side here, but let's look at how the auto-segmentation actually look when it's done. So now we're going into the design software here. I've already opened a case, and I also put a base on. So that wasn't automatic, that was me doing it. But this case is auto-segmented. What you see here was done fully automatic. So look at this, guys. So nice geometry of the teeth, and it has also reconstructed the geometry between the teeth. In the previous version, you had to sit and sculpt all of this manually, but it's using artificial intelligence to sculpt these teeth automatically according to how real patient biology is shaping teeth. And this is done fully automatic and totally hands-off. If the user isn't satisfied with it, they can of course go up in the segmentation steps and make corrections, but for the vast majority of the cases, it will just be spot on, perfect, and ready to start working on. I have already prepared a quick setup here, maybe not the most beautiful, but nevertheless, I made a quick setup with a few aligners here. There's not that many new functionality here in the design part of it. So this is an area where I will just skip it for today's demo. We have full videos on how you design cases. So you can dive into those on YouTube and other channels if you want to revisit how the design software works. But this is pretty much business as usual. But now we have this proposal here ready for the doctor. And now we want to communicate this back to the doctor and see if the doctor and ultimately the patients are happy with the suggestion that we made. And we do this up here in this last workflow step here. The system has automatically tracked that this is a case that is received from one of the doctors that are okay to use treatment review. And it has also tracked that a treatment review order form has been filled out, you know, what we did on the doctor side. So now I'm in a position where I can choose, if I had several setups, which one is it that I actually want to send to the doctor, but this one is chosen here already. And then I can press the send to review, and then that will automatically go back to the doctor, and they will be able to see the suggestion we have made. I'll just sign into another account where I know I have a case lying around. We could see, look at, so you guys can see how it looks when it goes back to the platform here. So again, I'm logging in. Pretend now we are on the clinic side. As usual, this is all my FreeShape Communicate cases, and I have my treatment review tab here. I have now received a mail, from the lab saying that a new suggestion is ready. Please take it out to see if you like it. So I click on treatment review. Out here, I can see design pending review. So here is where I find the cases where a suggestion has been made for me that I need to decide if I like or not. So let's open this one, for instance, here. This is real time, so there's no cheating. So now it's loading the case here. So here we have it. So that's the ideal setup. Really smooth and nice, responsive UI UX here. If I want to switch through the different aligners, I can do that, and you can see that it's changing before your eyes real time. No waiting when you evaluate this. The doctor also has all the information about which tooth is moved, how much in which aligner, when should the attachment go on. Here we can see the first problem, right? Because the doctor didn't want any attachment on the incisor. So that would probably be a likely comment from the doctor that this attachment shouldn't be there. But for now, let's just pretend that the doctor was happy with this, and they will then approve it. And now the lab will actually be told that everything's good to go. It's okay to go ahead and start production on the aligners. So now we are back at the lab side, and we are now ready to do the export of the case. And this is where some new cool stuff is happening. So we press the export button as usual. And here we have a really cool new feature, which is the export in background. I won't do it now because we actually want to go into the next workflow step where we do the hollowing and the wax up. But if I was the technician, that the high-paid one that does setup and staging all day, I would press the export in background, and then I could start working on the next case right away. I didn't have to wait for the export. I could just start working on it right away, no waiting. I can see how much it actually costs to export it. So right now, see, we have chosen these 4 models, so that would cost 4 of these export points. Once you run out, you can buy more CAD points to give yourself more points. If you export for visualization, let's say that you don't want to use the new FreeShape treatment view platform. Maybe you have your own system with some PDF files that you want to show the doctors. No worries, you can click this postpone payment point consumption, and then it will not deduct the price for the exports, but you will only get some files out that you cannot use for production. So you will get some files that you cannot print based on. They will be a little bit the wrong size, so they won't fit on the patient's teeth. And based on those files, you will then be able to show the vision to the doctor and hear if they want to accept it. So there are some ways that we make sure that the labs can show the treatment vision to doctors, even if they don't use treatment view, without having to pay for the export. So it's fair for everybody. And of course, you don't pay for failed exports and all of that. If I had pressed the export in the background button, then what would happen is that the case would have ended up in the export queue. So here you can see a list of the ongoing exports. They will be marked as in progress. All of mine has completed in the meantime, but if I had some new ones, you could see them in here as in progress. Once they are completed, you will be able to open the last part of the workflow where we do the wax up and hollowing, which we will dive into in a minute or two. You can open that from in here, and also you can easily access the exported file by clicking this Show in Explorer. So the time where you had to manually look up the patient ID, find it in the auto data folder on the C drive or whatever you have chosen to save it, those days are over. You just click the Show in Explorer, and then you are going to find them right away. If an export has failed, then it will be marked clearly here. And as mentioned, you are not paying for failed exports. So this is one of the big time savers here in the system that we really hope that is going to respond well with your clients. We know the beta participants, they absolutely loved it. Alrighty, let's jump into the next step of the workflow. This is an entirely new part of the workflow where we can do production preparation. So basically, this is a different kind of functionality that would optimize the exported models for production and downstream. One of the first one, that is a theme revolving around wax up or block out. In the traditional way, you would print the model, and then the operators would sit and put real physical wax in deep interproximal pockets. If there were a big gap between teeth, they would sit and put wax in so you won't get a flat spot in the aligner. The system can do this automatically now. So this is also one of these new payment features, but I think your clients will want to still pay the price, because what we hear from the beta participants is that some will spend up to 3 to 4 minutes per model doing the wax up automatically. And even if it's only a couple of minutes, if you add that up for a full aligner case, we are going to save them a lot of time here. So paying a small box for an export will still make sense for them. Yep, so here we have it. I actually don't have a gap between the teeth here, but if I had the gap between the teeth for this particular one, then I'll be able to, you'll be able to see that it has in fact made sort of a bridge between the teeth here. But that's fully automatic. But I can show you some of the other wax variants. If I go over to wax up here, now you can see it has appeared here. We have this interproximal wax. That's the wax here in between the teeth, where it will put it up automatically, and you can change the amount, and it remembers your settings for last time. And the same with the gingiva wax up line on how much wax it should put in these gingiva contours. Some users want that. If we look at this particular case here, it could be that we think that this recessed gingiva here, that maybe we're a little bit worried that this is not a good geometry, that the aligner would get stuck in this area here. Then we can put some select block out wax in teeth where we think this problem is. So I can expand this selector here and then go in and select the tooth, and now it will fill out wax in this area here. It could also typically be for some molars, for some patients, they will be really sort of bulging out, where you then would have a very deep crevice here. Maybe there has been some bands on earlier, if some other appliances had been used before, that would then require some wax up to be put on in that location. But again, you can choose everything you want regarding that, and then it will, based on that, fill out wax. Here you can see how it has done, and it's done it intelligently. So on the inside, because the tooth is chalking out a little, it hasn't put anything on, only on the outside, where we sort of get this unfortunate geometry here. So full wax up. Also, let's say we have extruded this tooth here, then it would have built a wax bridge in between. I apologize that I couldn't show you this for this particular case, but then it would have put a nice bridge over here, so we wouldn't get a flat spot on the aligner where the gingiva would have been down here. You might have noticed these bulges here. This is for, it's called a fixture. This is just not a real fixture, but just a dummy fixture we have made. This new version of the software will allow labs to put, to auto-generate a sort of a cut line where you could then have a milling machine cut out the aligner automatically. We typically see that it's only very large labs with very high volumes that want to invest in this kind of workflow. But we have enabled this functionality, and I will turn it on just so you can see it. You can parametrically decide on how the cut line should flow, how far it should go up between the teeth, and if it should be straight or be sort of a wavy in shape. You can decide that how you want it, and then it will output all of this here. And here you can turn it on and off if you don't want it. We also introduced hollowing. So you can choose your machine and material selection, and then based on that, it will hollow the models, and it hollows them in such a way that you do not need support struts. So no support struts are needed when you place these flat on a build plate. There are no sort of local hanging down roofs that will require support struts. So optimized for production and ready to use here. Oh, I forgot to mention that regarding the cut line, it's important to note that in the US, the FDA will not allow the clinics to do the cutout of the aligners. It's something that in the US are reserved for labs. In the rest of the world, we know that some clinics are showing interest for it, but it's still very cutting edge and not mainstream yet. So we have chosen not to include this cut line functionality for the clinics. So if we look at all the features that we are going to demo today, both clinics and lab are going to get exactly the same features, except for the cut line, which is reserved for labs. And also remember that treatment review is something that the labs buy and then make available to the clinic, but they buy it through their usual subscription. Here so far we have, this is the first step of the workflow. We call this global adjustments, but here the idea is that whatever I adjust of parameters and settings is applied to all the aligners. I only had a couple of aligners here, so we quickly could open this part here of the workflow. Remember, this export would have taken place in the background, so no user would have waited for it. But we wanted to go straight in here, so I only chose a couple of aligners here. This would already have happened. But all the adjustments we are making here would have been applied to all the aligners, even if we had 30, 20, whatever aligners. The next workflow step, that is individual adjustments. So here the idea is that whatever I change of parameters, that's only for that particular aligner. So let's say that we have a couple of aligners where there's a really crazy tooth position. I could go in and make some select other parameters for those particular aligners, so that we still would get the wax put on automatically, but just with some other values. If still there's something we do not like, no problem. We still have the usual sculpt tools where I could go in and smooth, add, do whatever we wanted here. And don't worry, it will adjust the cut line automatically. So if I put a lot of wax on in this area, the cut line will be adjusted accordingly. So the automatic cutting will take into account that a lot of wax has been added in this particular area. I actually think that's almost at the end of it. The next step, that's the last one, that's just the export, and it's pretty much instantaneous. Even if we had 15 aligners, when I press export, we get the export completed down here in the corner. Now it's already gone. So the exports are already done. The files are put in the usual location where the user usually wants to export to, and the files are named the exact same way. Some of them have built some automatic logistic scripts to move files around to the printer. All of that will still work out of the box with this new version of the software, as everything is named exactly the same. That actually concludes the demo. So we look forward to diving in some of your questions. Yeah. So let's see what you guys have come up with here. And then we have a question here: will the doctor that use traditional impressions that are asked by the lab to use treatment review going to have to make a physical communicate account? Yes, that's absolutely correct. They will need to make a communicate account, and there's a good reason for that, because we actually need to make sure that we respect all the HIPAA compliance, all the patient data safety rules, and when people make a real account, we make sure that they know where it is, and we also have the official handshake between the clinic and the lab, that the lab are in fact allowed to receive this patient data. That needs to be in place, so that's why they need to make an account for this. We have a question here: can appliance designer still be used? Yes, when you run the installer, it installs all the usual software that you're used to. So appliance designer, the scan software, indirect bonding, everything, but it's the dongle settings that decide if that functionality is turned on. So that means that the appliance designer and everything is fully part of this new release. We haven't made any sort of new functionality, for instance, in indirect bonding, but indirect bonding will also be able to benefit from auto segmentation, which I think is huge. So now you don't have to spend time manually segmenting the cases when you do indirect bonding. It will also happen in the background. There is something we need to be aware of when it comes to analysis and questionnaires. This new auto segmentation is an entirely new format, and it's not yet compatible with the analysis, all of the analysis and questionnaires. So there, for some of them, you would be asked to do manual segmentation for them to work together with the auto segmentation. And then we have a question: can orthodontic offices who have an in-house lab with milling machines have auto cut line feature? If they are in the US, the FDA still has a requirement that the lab is FDA registered, and that imposes a lot of QA workflows and sort of self-control, where they have to say, yes, today I have checked that this and that and is in order, and do quality assurance, and there's a lot of paperwork that kicks in. But if the clinic are okay with registering their in-house lab as a real full-blown orthodontic lab to the FDA, and they also register their aligner brand with FDA, then theoretically they will just become a normal auto lab, and then they could buy the auto item number and get the cut line functionality. But unfortunately, clinic in-house lab cannot do it in the US unless they do that. In the rest of the world, it's a free-for-all. If the software is approved, then you can use the cut line functionality in those markets. Several questions here. Let's start from an end. Where will the lab choose treatment review availability? Yeah, we have made that very easy for you guys. So there are several ways there are several places that you can select that. So if I close this part of the workflow, so you can do it in the control panel, but we've expected that many users will likely not know that or forget about it. So what we have done is that if treatment review is not turned on, then this button will start with being turned on treatment review integration. So the lab, even though if they haven't been educated about treatment review, they will be faced with a button in here that say turn on treatment review integration. And once they have done that, then the button will be sent for review if it's a relevant case. So we try to cover the bases here and make sure that that you can do it both in auto control panel and also from within the software.
Yeah, and if I can add here, we have training videos available how to use treatment review for both labs and clinics, and also from the clinic standpoint, depending if they're a Trios user or if they do not have a Trios, so either another scanner or using conventional impressions. So those videos are already available on the partner portal page that I talked about before. They will also be published on YouTube and our community, where our users can get different types of materials on September 15th, once we have the commercial launch.
I think we have made like 5 or 6 videos for treatment review alone, and then at least that many also new features for the rest of the new functionality. So we try to have you guys back and make some nice high production videos for you that shows all the new functionality. So we hope you guys will make good use of those. Let's see the next question here. Does the Trios treatment simulator setup is usable in ClearLiner space for setup? That functionality we actually had as a preview functionality in the beta. We knew we weren't going to release it because we don't think it's strong enough for the ClearLiners, and let me explain why. In the Trios treatment simulator, the gingiva is artificial. So the gingiva will always look beautiful because it's sized according to the teeth's position and how big the jaw is. We have to remember that when we do ClearLiners, we have to use the patient's own gingiva. We cannot just all of a sudden grow that by a huge amount. And what we found was that when we planted the Trios treatment simulator setup into the patient's own gingiva, it would be stretched too much. So we are perfecting that, make it impossible to extract teeth, to do IPR, distalize molars, and what else you would do in the real world to make more space for these tooth movements, so that we can still use the patient's own gingiva. And we are going to have that in the next major version. So not this one, but the next major version. Then there's a question here: when will we have a 2D cross section in 3D web preview? Thank you for that suggestion. I cannot give you a date now, but we will make sure to include that on the list of features that we are considering for future enhancements. I'm assuming you mean on the treatment review platform, but we will make sure to add it there to the list of requests. And then the question is, how long could the export in background take, and how many resources are used for it? We have made sure that we don't use more than 15% of the capacity of the PC for this, so you don't feel a performance drop when you work on then the next designing of the case. So only 15% is allocated, and the funny thing is that unless you're working on a laptop where there's few cores, so if you have a normal desktop PC with a powerful graphic card, then it takes comparable time to if you export it in the foreground, because the developers has made a lot of cool refactoring around this topic. So you can expect the same export times, which sounds a little bit contradictory, but it is in fact the case. But now you just don't have to wait for it at all, because it will be done in the background and you can start doing other work on a different case in the meantime. Then we have a question: is waxing model tool using an insertion direction, I assume is meant, and more precisely stamping X only quantity of wax? I'm not quite sure I understand all the nuances of your question, but regarding the insert direction, only for the overhang wax, remember the one where I chose a tooth, that one is using the the direction of that particular tooth. But other than that, you cannot really do it, because if you look at for instance, the incisors in the upper mouth of most patients, they will be chalked out actually often very, very much. So we could not use the occlusal plane or something to say that everything should be blocked out besides that. So it's actually a bit more about getting the deep interproximal pockets, and that will also be like that in the real world. In splints, you will block it out if you have incisors that are flared out, but for aligners, you won't. You actually want the aligner to engage the part of the crown that is on the buccal side. So yes or no, depending on which kind of wax it is we are going to use. Then there's a question about if the hollowing use a particular printer. When we launch, there will be in the manual, there will be which printers we actually support. But if you're outside of the US, you could actually choose any printer on the list, because the shape of the models are not different if you choose one printer over the others. What the printer selection is used for is to warn the user if they set the wall thickness too thin. In the US, the FDA would like to ensure that the users get a warning if they try to make the walls too thin. But in the rest of the world, you guys will be able to choose any printer. The software will have the exact same shape of the hollowing, and you can just choose any printer and then choose the wall thickness that you would otherwise for your machine. But that's only for outside the US. We have a question here. When you select export in the background and want to start working on second case, do you require additional client points on your dongle? And no, you do not. It will not lock client points regardless on how many export in the background sessions you have running. It's only the active design session that would require a client point. When will ClearAligner Enterprise be available to customers in the US? So the Enterprise solution, that's a specific solution geared to, for instance, huge treatment systems. So that would be, the biggest manufacturers of aligners in the world. And there it is, in fact, already available. So please reach out to FreeShape for that. So that's a particular pricing model for people with extreme high production volumes. And then there's a question here, if you will plan a doctor review for appliances either. I don't think, unfortunately, that is on the roadmap right now. FreeShape management have asked us to focus on clear aligners with the resources we have right now. I won't rule it out that maybe in the future we will start doing it for appliances, but for now we will focus on clear aligners. I'm really sorry about that, but for now that's where the focus will be. Do we receive an install guide? Yeah, I think that's on the partner portal. Yeah, the installation process is actually the same as the old one, but you'll just only get one icon on the desktop. So things have become a little bit easier that way around, but on that it's the same. Also regarding all the integrations to practice management systems and all that, that's also identical to the previous version. Then we have a comment here. Labs don't have ClearAligner Studio. The labs for these functions are put into the Auto Premium bundle. How will these features appear in that workflow? Yeah, that's actually, thank you for that question. That's actually really cool. We have gotten some complaint and wishes that it was very expensive for labs to buy into the FreeShape software because they were forced to buy the Premium. And the Premium also had the ClearAligner functionality. We have listened. So with this new launch here, you will be able to, even if you are a lab, only buy ClearAligner Studio, and it will be the same pricing as you're used to if you buy it for clinics. So that would be a really reduced price compared to the full premium package, and there you will then get all the new functionality in that ClearAligner Studio. And of course, if you either have a previous version of ClearAligner Studio or previous version of the premium package, you will of course also via your subscription get all of this cool new functionality. So both Premium have the new functionality, ClearAligner Studio have the new functionality, and labs will be able to buy ClearAligner Studio at the lower price.
Yeah, so basically they can buy it through if they have a scan only, if they already have an Ortho System Premium or want to purchase an Ortho System Premium, or Ortho Analyzer.
Yeah, but the Ortho System Premium guys will get the ClearAligner so automatically as part of the, Yeah, there's a question here if I can name all the paid functionality again. Yes, so it is treatment review. If somebody has used treatment review on the case, it will trigger payment. Auto segmentation will trigger payment, and hollowing or wax up or cut line, everything that sort of took place in the new workflow step that you saw, any of functionality in there will trigger the payment.
And here, just to stress, it means one clear aligner model means one, they're deducted by one, basically, from
Yes.
the 750 model exports they get for free each year. And then on top of that, they can purchase additional CAT points, which if they won't be used in 1 year, they will be transferred into the next year.
Yep. If we can take maybe a small calculation example. So let's say we have a small case with 10 aligners, but that's both upper and lower. That would require 20 points. Yep.
Very good.
Are there any aligner trimmers that have a confirmed integration? There are several where we make sort of a logistical check to see if they can actually use our format. On the FreeShape webpage under the enterprise segment, there you can see which some of them that are on that webpage. We think this is an area where some maturity is still needed. It's still a little bit of a nerdy feature, if you can say like that, that still requires some work on the lab side. So far we see that it's mainly the bigger labs that want to dive into that, but we just want to make sure that we had the functionality ready. But this is by no means plug and play, what we see so far, but I think it will get there very soon, actually. So it's definitely something worth sort of keeping an eye out for. And you can tell all your clients, potential clients, existing clients, that Clear Aligner Studio can grow with them. We already now support this, and this is something that they can dive into. Insertion of aligner or stamping. Oh, I think maybe it was a comment to the question before. Let's go to the next one. Is there a vent hole in the hollowing models? No, not so far. It's something we will consider adding in future version, likely the next major, but so far there's no venting hole. We see many of the printers have perforated build plates, and if nothing else, when you take them off, then the resin will come out. But it's something that we will likely consider adding in the next main version. When will the pricing be available so we can let our customers know about the new upgrade fee here?
Yeah, I hope you received the new price list from our sales and country managers with which you're working with, because the new pricing is already done and it's been shared. It will go live on September 15th when we also do the commercial launch. So I would suggest from that day on. And if you for some reason don't have the price list yet, I would suggest you to reach out to the country manager you work with.
There's a question if it's an add-on or running on or if it's an add-on to dental system. I actually don't know if it's on, if you can buy it as an add-on to dental system.
I also don't think so.
Yeah.
I think we only said that you can get it if you get the scan only, ortho analyzer, or premium.
Okay.
But we can definitely check and then get back to our sales management, and those guys can let you know.
Yeah, thank you for the question. No, it has a question here if a 20 setup case will deduct 20 exports. That depends if you need both the upper and the lower, because remember it's one model, one point. So if you have a case with 20 setups, then remember there's one model for all the uppers and one for the lower, so that would actually be a 40 point deduction, unless you have only moved teeth in the upper, in which case it would just be 20. There's a question if current use of ACAS will now automatically have 7 points used towards the new features, and yes, all will automatically be upgraded to all the new licenses needed for this new functionality, and they will get their 750.